Okay, so today I'm going to talk about a poem that I would say is quite inconsequential in the grand scheme of things, that is, in the context of Du Fu's complete works. It's called 白丝行 White Silk, a Ballad. And yeah, as I said, it's not, I wouldn't say it's an important poem by Du Fu, but I choose to talk about it because I want to always give you a sense of the great variety of poems of different types and different moods that Du Fu was able to produce. And this is just one instance of where he strikes a mood that I don't think I've come across uh, at an earlier place in his complete works, because I'm going now from the beginning until hopefully all the way to the bitter end, and I'm just sort of halfway through the first volume yet, so we're doing quite a rich selection of Du Fu's poems here. And this White Silk, a Ballad, yeah, it has a mood that is quite sort of yes, as I said, a little bit different from what we have been used to with Du Fu. It's kind of wistful, it's kind of low-key, it's gracious, it is a little bit female, I would actually say, perhaps largely because of its subject matter, that it gives an association to be female poem in my mind. And as you can see, it's ballad form, so it's also quite, it has a sort of irregular construction. There aren't that many parallel constructions. It has rhymes on, I think, entering tones here. I'm not sure, but at least it's not. It rhymes. It doesn't rhyme on the ping. It doesn't rhyme on the level tones, but on the oblique tones. So this is a ballad in an ancient style ballad. And the whole thing is just an extended metaphor, you might say. It's a kind of poetry that really has very ancient roots in China. It goes back to the Shi Jing, and everything in between. This certainly has its roots in the Yue Fu tradition, which exists from the Han Dynasty and onward. And this is sort of the latest configuration of that sort of extended metaphor. Everything from the beginning here until the last couplet, and the next to last couplet, is like a whole comparison between sort of a precious fabric and the thing it refers to is a virtuous man, which is only made explicit in the last couplet. But sort of the charm of it is not so much in the originality of this metaphor, because it's not original at all. It doesn't begin with Du Fu, this comparing a gentleman or a noble person to a precious cloth, but it is just treated in a very nice way, and it has a very nice language and a nice mood, so to speak, a sort of rather low key and not making too much a fuss about it, even though it's sad and yeah, you can think of the proper adjectives yourselves. So let's talk about this line by line then. I put the first four lines together here because I think they belong together. They are one sense unit. 骚丝须长不须白，月如蜀锦金素持。项川玉手乱嫣红，万草千花动凝碧。So here we have, just to begin with, we have a very unusual word, 骚. I actually had to look up the pronunciation for this character. I don't remember ever seeing it before. It's reeling silk. Technically, it means to take the silk fibers from the silk cocoon. Perhaps you know that the silk is made from silk cocoons. It's threads spun by a moth when it turns itself into a cocoon, or a larva becoming a moth. And you take these silk fibers and you twist them into threads for weaving. That is really what sao means. And then, of course, you need the fibers should be as long as possible. The point is not to have perfectly white ones, and it will be seen why. because here the silk is used to make a very elaborate garment, and the white color will get lost very soon, and that also has some importance in the sort of poetic idea that dufu has here. And then it goes on like 月罗蜀锦, 月 gossamer and shu brocade. So both 罗 and 锦 are two types of fabric. 锦 is almost, I think that is exactly what corresponds to brocade in English. But 罗, I don't know if there's an exact translation for that. I haven't found one that sort of always occurs as a translation of 罗. Anyway, it is known actually in historical sources that these two regions, the Yue region, which would be the sort of the Zhejiang, Fujian region, actually did produce luo, and that the Sichuan region, Shu, did produce brocade. So that's a sort of realistic. And then Jinsu Chi, foot-long ruler marked with golden grains. Yes, so Chi is both a ruler and, of course, also the measure, a foot. But here it means the ruler, the implement. And it's called a golden grain ruler. So it's perhaps the markers for the smaller units of length on the ruler that are in gold on this precious ruler. And really, I mean, Stephen Owen, he provides a lot of, he fills out the sentence here. For Yue gossamer and shu brocade, use a foot-long ruler marked with golden grains. Actually, there's no syntax here at all, isn't it? Is there? There's just words after each other. Yue luo, shu jin, jin su chi. Like three things. So it's a little bit as if someone is sort of just getting ready to do their seamstress work, and they enumerate their tools and the material. They're like, remember, when you do the silk, it has to be long. It doesn't have to be white. You got your gossamer, you got your brocade, you got your golden grain ruler. Okay, we're fine to go. Sort of, more or less something like that. That's sort of the feeling I get. And it goes on, 相传玉手乱烟红. 相传, an ivory loom, as you know, of course, 床 means bed. But so I think this is technically a part of the loom that's called 床, but whatever. It often occurs in connection with weaving looms. 玉手, marble hand, is the hands of the weaver maiden, and they throw dark red into confusion. So 烟红 is the dark red. Yen, this character, of course, has many various pronunciations, yin or yin, but there's as a color, it's pronounced yen, yan hong. Wan cao qianhua would then be the pattern of the brocade or the fabric. It's sort of, and they dong, they stir. It's sort of as if the pattern of brocade, it sort of makes a movement on the blue background of concentrated blue, a background of concentrated blue. That's how I understand it. Though the syntax, of course, is quite loose here as well. We go on. 以杯素质随时染，列下明机色相摄. This 被素质 already said that the plain fabric is dyed to suit the fashion. This has literary precedence. Or rather, it is in fact a very well-known anecdote which concerns the philosopher Mozi. He's said to have wept once at the sight of untreated silk, undyed silk, because it's so easily dyed in other colors, which of course is a metaphor for the human being, whose inner nature is so easily distorted and dissembled by outer things in our environment, and so on, which is what is meant by 随时染. It follows the dye of the times. It is dyed in accordance with the times of the fashion. And this is a sad thing. And this, of course, goes... now we hear an echo back to the first line. So probably some of you have already picked up this allusion already in the first line. 骚思虚长不虚白. It has sort of an ironic flavor to it, this first line altogether, because it's all this illusion of the white silk is so well known in the Chinese poetic tradition. So if you said that silk doesn't have to be white, well, everyone knows already what you think of. Character doesn't have to be good, basically, as long as it shines and pleases, which is sort of the basic idea of this poem. 列下明机色相摄 Yes, ripped and forth of a singing loom. It also you rip it off with a sound effect as if it sings, something like that. Yeah, shooting rays of color. Yes, why not? The colors shoot at each other, so you can understand what kind of fabric this is. 美人细意韵贴平，裁缝灭尽针线迹。This taking great care, 细意 is nice, isn't it? It's almost a perfect synonym for 小心. 细 is the same as 小, small, fine. 意 and 心, yes, it's both the mind. So it can be 小心 or it can be 细意, it's the same thing. Okay. Taking great care, irons it flat, 把它熨平，熨贴了它就平。Something like that. And then also here we have, when cut it, sew it, eliminate completely the traces of needle and thread. Yeah. So here we've got more instructions. This is all the things that she does. She irons it, she cuts it, she sews it, and she takes away, and she takes care so that we don't see any traces of needle and thread. So a lot of work is put into this garment to make it look fine. And what happens then? 春天衣着为君舞，家底飞来黄鹂语。春天衣着, of course, here is verbal, to put them on in the spring and dance for the Lord. So we have to imagine this is a skirt or something, and a beautiful woman is wearing it in front of a great man or something like that she wishes to please. And the impression is so wonderful that, the butterflies come flying, the yellow orioles, birds sing. It's as if nature responds to the beautiful garment. There's nothing really difficult here language-wise. 蛱蝶 is fun because it's called 蝴蝶 nowadays, right? But 蛱蝶 is much more common in the Tang Dynasty. I don't know the history of this word. Perhaps it's foreign because it seems to have been in 2 syllables already from the start. And as we all know, most Chinese words in classical Chinese, that is, are monosyllabic. So perhaps it's a foreign loan at an early point in history. We go on. 落絮有丝亦有情，随风照日宜轻举。落絮, falling, floss, of course, that's sort of the stuff that falls from some trees, like willows. They emit this kind of floss. And 游丝, drifting strands, this is floating threads of spider web. This 落絮 and 游丝 is a completely conventional pairing. They often occur together because they are these ethereal things, floating in the air. They exist, but they hardly don't exist, but they still exist. It's sort of the things that the Chinese really love to dwell upon. And these things, they have a feeling. Also, they have a feeling. And in the 随风照日, in the following wind and the shining sun, they go perfect together with the 轻举, the motion of the dress, the lightly lifting motion of the dress. It's as if this dancer, she's almost about to take off on the wind as an angelic being, surrounded by these ethereal wisps of hardly existent little things. This is a very nice sort of image, and it's supposed to make you imbued with this romantic feeling of what a beautiful garment, what an impression it can make on someone. But then, 香汉倾城屋檐色， 开心何故，至何许? Yes, you can read the translation. This is fun, of course. 清晨, clear dust. You know, this is really a paradox. It's an oxymoron. If it's dusty, it's not clear. But it's still fun because it sounds natural still. It sort of softens the tone of this character. To contaminate or to sully. You know? So it makes the dust seem somehow noble. And it's the same with Xianghan, actually, of course, because really, has anyone ever smelled such a thing as fragrant sweat? It's just complete romantic bullshit, isn't it? 香汗清晨无颜色. I love this. This is nice. Du Fu, he can be so discreet and nice when he wishes to. Here he really takes out his little lyre. When sometimes he brings out his huge church bell, but this is his little lyre that he's tinkling on. 开心何故，至何许? So 开, open, 和, close. So it has to be sort of you can imagine that you keep your clothes in a clothes drawer or something like that, and you open the one with the new ones and you just close the one with old ones in, and then you put it somewhere and you just don't know where they are anymore after some time. 至何许? Put where? Yeah, you don't know. And then we get sort of the point, the little point, as the French say. 君不见，才是极隐难，恐惧弃捐忍羁旅. And we get a little 君不见 here as a true ballad format, and it's shortened 5-character line after that, and then we're back to the normal 7-character rhythm. 才是 raise talented men to office. Yes, that's 积引. It was translated with raising talented men to office. That's a very common word. And it means, yes, raise to office, yes, but also in general, just giving material help in a career. It's something that older and more experienced and better positioned people do to younger people that they wish to promote. And this character, 积, it means to pull water out of a... by itself, it means to pull water out of a well. So it's basically, that's what you do with these talented men. You sort of pull them up in the sunlight from the dark of a well. This is not Du Fu's phrase. It's a really common word, but the sort of metaphor behind it is quite interesting. It's so hard to do this. They fear that they will tossed away and be allowed to bear long travels. Let's just look at the language here. 羁旅, bear long travels. I think this is more specifically perhaps to live in other people's homes, you know, and rely on their good offices, and that's what you have to bear. And they bear these hardships in fear of being discarded. That's how I understand this line. In fear of being discarded, they bear the hardships of living in other people's homes and relying on their benevolence. So that's what you have. You have the sort of whole metaphor of cloth being reeled, spun, woven, and worn, and making a huge impression on someone. And it's taken a lot of work, and it's really beautiful, and everything could be so fine, but then they just forget about it, and they put you away in some closet, and you never hear of you again. And that's what it's like for a talented man, a talented scholar like Du Fu, of course. So that's quite a nice little poem, not too consequential, but certainly not without poetic charm and quality, because as I said, quality is the most important thing. I don't only talk about high quality poems, but I mostly do, because I think quality is really the thing that decides everything. So thank you for listening, and bye.